Okay, hello. It's Thursday night and it's time for Call the Wild Outdoors Live, and we will have the fishing report shortly. I have a poll up and hopefully it is reading right. Oh, looks like it is. Okay. Um, well, what kind of bow do you use for bow hunting? Um, that brings me to the discussion that I'm gonna have a little bit of tonight. I was in another channel over the weekend, and they do not believe that crossbows should be legal. Um, he kind of reminded me of a Democrat anti-gunner. He's got it way wrong on what crossbows can do and how they are. Um, he believes that people are just buying crossbows, going out and setting up in the middle of a field and popping deer at 60 to 100 yards. Um, there's a couple of crossbows out there right now. They run $3,000 to $4,000 that are claiming 100-yard shots. But again, I'll have to see it to believe it. Um, yeah, I'll bet he does, though, Hunter. Um, but you know, I've sighted mine in, and I'm literally holding quarter-sized groups at 20 and 30 yards. 40 yards are getting a little bit bigger. And yeah, I'm hitting the target at 50 yards and knocking it down. And out of a 20-inch bolt, I'm getting 16, 17 inches of penetration with a field tip on a target that's designed for broadheads, which I would never shoot at this particular target because I don't believe it'll stop them. But I'll tell you what, my groups are 2-3 feet at 50 yards. Now, like I said, this company that's claiming 100 yards, indoor shooting, zero wind, I can believe that. But these bolts are just so light that they just drift everywhere with the slightest amount of wind. Now, I did shoot my compound bow the other day just for grins and giggles. And, you know, my shoulder's messed up, so I won't take it out into the woods. And I'll tell you what, I hit it 20 yards, took a couple shots, no problem, still grouping, maybe a little bit bigger than a quarter. And I haven't fired this bow since 2016-ish, 2015 maybe. And I set the target back at 30 yards, no problem, hit. 40 yards, no problem, hit. 50 yards, no problem, hit. 60 yards, no problem, hit. And that's the end of my sight pins right now. When I shoot that bow religiously most of the summer and really practice with it, 75-yard shots are not a problem with that compound bow. That thing way outshoots my crossbow. It's not faster, definitely, than my newest crossbow. My older crossbow, it's faster than it, hits harder, everything. The penetration I'm getting, I'm using a full-length 22-16 because I have a real long draw length, and I do not use an overdraw shelf. And I'm shooting, well, it used to be 175 grain broadheads. I can't find them anymore, the old satellites, the old 4-blade. So I dropped down to 125 grain. Now with the 175s, I was chronographing at 227, 228, and 229 for an average of 228 feet a second. Now I bought this bow brand new. I picked it up the day I got married in 1987. And I won't trade that bow for nothing. I love it. It's killed me a lot of deer. My first deer was at 63 yards with it in a spot that I had pretty much given up bow hunting at the time. I was just checking my rifle stand. And that's not a stand for bow hunting, but a doe came in and got close enough. Yeah, like I said, I that 63-yard shot, I've been practicing all year with it. So, I mean, I knew exactly where it was going to hit. There was almost no wind that day. And yeah, with my crossbow, I can do a 40, 45 yard shot tops. I wouldn't take a 45 yard shot, especially out of the stand that I have right now. There just isn't enough clearing. I'd be shooting in between trees, and with the amount of wind I'm getting in the woods, I think 35 is probably my max on that bow. Preferably, I'd like them in 20, 25 yards, but crossbows do not give you range over a compound bow. There's advantages to using a crossbow. You don't have the movement up in the stand of drawing back. You can hold the bow on aim if the deer is getting ready to stare at you, but I can do that with my compound bow. That's why I've got my compound bow set at 63 pounds. 65 pounds, when I first got that bow, it had a different arrow rest on it, and when you draw it back, it would go and the deer would look at you, so you'd have to sit there forever. Well, after 4 or 5 minutes, you start getting a little bit of the shakes. Well, you can't take a good shot there, so you got to let it up. But I found I started messing with the bow, and I turned it like a half a turn down because my bow's adjustable, and I can sit and draw that thing and hold it for an hour. No problem, no shakes, no nothing. It's 63 pounds. You wouldn't think 2 pounds makes that much difference, but it really does. Now, he's talking about crossbows. They're not bows, yada, yada, yada. The recurve guys said the same thing about compound bows. And then the longbow guys said the same thing about recurve bows. Now, when I hunt with a compound bow, I'm not using a release. I have my sight pins on it. I don't have a peep sight in the string. And I do use string silencers. I'll bet you, doe hunter, you know the guy I'm talking about. I'll bet you any money he's using a release so that he can draw back using the help of his wrist instead of just his fingers. And I'll bet you he's got a peep sight in his string, maybe a scope for a sight, who knows. But a crossbow is a bow, very functional for bow hunting. Does not give anybody an advantage over a compound bow. If anything, compound bows and crossbows definitely have advantage over the recurve bows and the long bows, but they're still all bows. Okay. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm hunting with a crossbow purely this year. I can draw back my compound bow, but the problem is the way my shoulder is right now, certain angles puts me into severe pain. It's pain enough that it's crippling pain is what it is. It could be dangerous out there for me to draw the bow back other than facing right off to my left side and drawing back. If I've got to come out to the front at all with that kind of strain, I'm going to feel the pain, and it's not going to be good. So I physically, if I didn't have a crossbow, I would not be bow hunting this year. So I'm glad that they opened up the crossbow hunting to everybody. The state figured out that it ain't giving you no advantage. If anything, you're at a disadvantage because the bolts are shorter. They do drift with any kind of wind a lot more, and they don't carry on like a regular arrow does. They do shoot flatter, but only out to a certain range. Then they drop really fast. And like the new bow that I got, it's supposed to shoot 405 feet a second. I'm getting right around 390 off the chronograph, right off the bow. And out at 30 yards, I'm down in the 230s. She's lost that kind of speed in just a few yards. So, well, Mark, I brought it up because another channel was criticizing people who hunt with a crossbow, and I didn't see no reason for it at all. That's the only reason I brought it up. And then there was another channel I went to, and he's all for the antler point restrictions. Don't think people should be shooting spikes and fours. Personally, I'm a meat hunter. I used to let the big bucks go by me and take the spike or four that's always following them. So these antler point restrictions in my area kind of killed my hunting. So just things I wanted to bring up, you know. We can get to the fishing report though. I'm sure everybody's kind of waiting on that. So it's not the greatest one this week. Yeah, you're a meat hunter too. Now for me to get good quality meat, I've got to either shoot a doe or a button buck. And in order to piss off the guys that have the antler point restrictions, I try to shoot button bucks. So, all right, we're going to start off at St. Joe again. They're getting a few steelhead using spawn and skein, and a few on spinners. Other than that, it's pretty dead down there. No perch reports. Weather's been lousy on Lake Michigan. Anybody that lives on the west side of the state knows it's been windy, rainy, snowy. It's just been a heck of a week. South Haven, a few steelhead are being caught using spawn, with an occasional whitefish also being taken. You're going to find that all along the Lake Michigan shoreline, on the piers, even if it's not reported, you're going to find some whitefish being caught off the piers, especially if you're fishing spawn. They seem to really like that. So, Grand Haven, pier fishermen are catching a few steelhead using spawn and skein, while those jigging the channel are catching a few lake trout. No reports of whitefish, but I'm sure those are in the area as well. Muskegon, a few steelhead showing up. The guys are using spawn and spinners, but the action's very slow. Ludington, a few steelhead are being caught off the piers when it's fishable using spawn and spinners and some spoons. Rivers has some steelies in it as well, but the only report I got is up to Walhalla. They're getting them up to Walhalla. I don't have any report from Walhalla to Baldwin. And then a few whitefish have also been caught from the Ludington Pier using salmon eggs, but action is slow, and it should pick up pretty soon. Manistee, they are still getting a few fresh salmon in the river, as well as a few steelhead. But for the most part, the salmon run is done. It's over. The piers, when fishable, are yielding a few steelies and whitefish using spawn. Onekama, pier fishing is producing some steelhead using spawn when safely fishable. And that's the key, guys. It's got to be safe, man. If them waves are crashing over it, don't go out on it. It ain't worth it. Frankfort, pier fishing is producing some steelhead using spawn. A few whitefish are also being caught, but action is slow due to weather and waves. There are some steelies in the river, but not a lot of them. West Grand Traverse Bay, lousy weather has kept most folks in, but those getting out are catching perch in front of the Grand Traverse Yacht Club using wigglers and minnows. A few Cisco's are also being caught on the southeastern end of the bay. And those guys are jigging, and they're setting up in about 70-75 feet of water and fishing 40-45 feet down with a Swedish pimple. Charlevoix, guys are fishing Medusa Creek. They're still getting a few kings using flies near the mouth of the creek and further upstream. It's slow, but some fresh fish are still around, and as well as some steelhead. Petoskey, guys are still getting a few kings along with fresh coho, steelhead, and some browns fishing in the Bear River. The Sheboygan River, few steelhead are in and being caught on a variety of lures and baits, spawn, waxworms, spinners, etc. There are still some kings in the river, but the report I got is they're pretty rotten. They're fun to catch, but they're rotten. So, Rogers City, lousy weather. I got no viable report from Rogers City whatsoever. Alpena, lousy weather has kept folks in. Those getting out were not doing good. The Thunder Bay River has some salmon in it still, kings and cohos, and they are using beads and spawn with limited success. Those fishing for and catching Atlantics were using spoons, spinners, and oranges. and golds. Okay. Some guys are catching walleye and a few perch around the mouth of the river. The walleye action is mostly at night. Oscoda, a few walleye and lake trout and coho are being caught around the mouth of the AuSable River, with walleye action being at night. There are steelhead in the river all the way to Foot Dam. The guys using spawn and spinners. Tawas. Guys are getting a few walleye off the Tawas dock and around the mouth of the Tawas River using night crawlers and casting floating baits with a very slow retrieve. I did get another report that I didn't get it in time to put it in print, but they're getting them off the shore by the boat launch as well at night. Augers, fishing is slow in most spots. But guys launching at Pine River and going out a bit are getting some decent numbers of perch. The rest of the area is pretty dead. Lake St. Clair catching a lot of small perch. Down by the Grosse Point Yacht Club. And then at the mouth of the Detroit River and in the channel, they're getting a few walleye. Lake Erie, they're getting some perch out of Brust Bay and a few walleye as well. The reports I got are just hit or miss because of the weather. St. Clair River, fishing in the channel from Algonac up. They're getting a walleye or two. Little Bay Denock, guys are getting perch using minnows and crawlers. Walleye bite is a little slow, but some are being caught. Big Bay Denock, perch fishing is very good using minnows, crawlers, and wigglers. Most of the creeks and rivers along the northern Lake Michigan shoreline have some steelhead in or around them. The salmon are pretty much done up there, guys, on Lake Michigan side. Lake Superior, most ports and harbors are touting good fishing for lake trout, steelhead, and whitefish. Marquette still has good amount of cohos around and in the rivers, but the bite is slow. The whitefish are going to be in on most piers. It's their spawning season. Pretty soon, I'm not sure exactly when, but you'll be allowed to spear them on Crystal Lake up here in Benzie County at night. But anyways, this week's tip is whitefish are getting ready to make spawning runs. They like to get close to shore, especially rocky areas. So if you can find some rocks and stuff on the ground, like you get up in Lake Superior beaches and stuff, that's a good place to be. It's a good time to cash in on these tasty fish using salmon eggs, spawn sacks, and occasionally some waxworms. So that's the fishing report for the week. It's not the greatest, but a lot of guys have switched over to hunting. Let's face it, deer season's 13 days away for the rifle. And a lot of guys are focusing on that. I've seen a lot of guys up this past weekend. I know I scouted out a couple of new spots yesterday. I haven't moved my stand yet, but I'm going to try them, and they're actually closer to my house. The one area is really, really thick, but there's a little creek running through the area, and I'm gonna be real lucky to get a 25-30 yard shot in that area, and I'm gonna be real lucky to see anything past 30-35 yards. It's thick, but that could pay off for me too. I just gotta find a couple of nice, well-used trails. When did that happen, Mark? I haven't heard about that. Hopefully that's all that was in the boat was for today. Was it windy down there, or they just in too small of a boat? I hate seeing people getting in the water because of a capsized boat or a sinking boat. And this time of year, it's bad because the water's so cold. Hopefully they got everybody and everybody's safe. I knew Erie was rolling, but I wasn't sure what the river looked like. Sometimes Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie are unfishable, and the river's usually pretty good, but it just depends if the wind's coming out of the north or the south. Them rivers are gonna be screwed. And then the St. Clair River, man, that especially up by Port Huron, that current is really, really whizzing right there. It's, I believe, a 26, 27 mile an hour current right there under the bridge. I've gone up there many times in boats, and it's just churning as it's coming down the river. It looks like it's going over rocks, and you're in 35, 40 feet of water or more. I wouldn't take my 14 footer underneath the Blue Water Bridge, that's for sure. That water churns way too much. I know there's guys that do it, but I wouldn't go up that way in anything less than a. Did ya? I wouldn't go up there with anything less than a 16-foot boat. Takes a pretty good swimmer to dive the St. Clair River. I know that, unless you're down by Algonac all the time. But I know a lot of people dive right there in Port Huron and collect lures and sell them back to the fishermen along the breakwall. Yeah, it rips under that bridge. I tell you what, I one year in my 21-foot boat that I had, we went up about 3 miles north of the mouth of the river out into Lake Huron, and I started drifting with crawler harnesses, and the current is strong even up there. GPS showed me doing almost 4 miles an hour, 2 miles up from the river. And no, I take that back. It wasn't GPS. That was Loran, and you know how accurate Loran was. So I could have been going 6, 7 miles per hour for all I know. I know I couldn't hold bottom with 2 ounces of lead. But we did catch some walleye that night. What I ended up doing was putting the anchor down so it just touched bottom and let that kind of drag us, kind of like they do in the in the spring steelhead fishing in the rivers and stuff. That slowed me down enough where we could drift the harnesses. And my mom caught her first walleye that night. We were night fishing. And then once we got down to the river, I just started up the motor and put it in gear and just kind of held a little bit. We were moving down slowly, kind of chugging. I miss fishing that river though. Used to do real well. So, how far did you used to make it out away from like the shore and breakwalls in the St. Clair River? Because I've been told that divers can only go so far out before they start getting ripped downstream really bad. Something I'd love to learn how to do is scuba dive. Someday, maybe. Okay. That had to be cool. There's got to be some strange stuff sitting on the bottom, especially from a lot of little boats and stuff like that from back in the days, bootlegging alcohol across the river. Holy mackerel! Wow. Wouldn't even know how to get something that heavy out of the water. I've heard there's old cars down there, and just all kinds of stuff. I know my grandpa, when he was still alive, he talked about when he was a kid, his dad running booze across the Detroit River, and a few times they had to sink their boat and swim to shore because of the feds were on them. You know, who's to say it was true? Who's to say it wasn't? But it was pretty funny. And he says there's literally thousands of bottles of alcohol sitting on the bottom of the Detroit and St. Clair rivers from that. It'd be interesting to find some of that stuff. I know he said they didn't use a motor. They rode across because they didn't want to make any noise at all. I'm sure a lot of people dump some stuff in there too. I'm sure the closer you get to shore, the more junk there is. So who all got snow this week, or in the last few days? I know we got some up here. 2 mornings in a row I hunted with half-inch of snow on the ground and got snowed on out in the woods. It would melt a few hours into the day, but we'd start the morning out with snow, and usually end the evening with snow. I got a video. I was out, I believe it was Halloween night, and about 5 o'clock, a snow squall came in and just covered the ground with snow, and stopped about the same, about 20 minutes later, and within an hour it was pretty much melted off. Inch in mid-Michigan. Okay. I heard Fruitport, which I think is south of me, got like 6 to 9 inches. I've seen some pictures of it, but I don't remember where Fruitport is. I'm pretty sure it's south. I'm by Frankfort. So did it help your deer hunting at all, doe hunter? Having that little bit of snow on the ground, or was it just enough to not be able to catch them flickering ears? Down by Muskegon. That's what I thought. Yeah, and I know my youngest son, his wife's parents live up in the Keweenaw Peninsula, and they got dumped on pretty good Sunday, Monday, and I don't know if they got hit Tuesday, but where they're at, they catch lake effect snow just about any way the wind blows. They're a little north of Houghton, Hancock area. Now, I'm seeing lots of perch crossing my Facebook feeds, um, basically from all over the country. So if you know a good perch spot, by all means you should be hitting it, because even people in Michigan are catching good amounts of perch. A lot of them just ain't letting you know where. I was surprised at some of the jumbo perch I'm seeing coming out of the Mississippi River. And then I got a couple guys that posting from South Dakota, and they're getting some really nice perch there. I'll tell you what, I haven't even seen a deer when I've been out hunting since that first day. I was hunting 45 minutes and had that one come in, and I haven't seen one since. That's why I'm gonna change spots. They're not even. I had a buck messing with me, and he was putting in scrapes every day there for a few days, um, but never seen him during daylight hours. And he was sticking to the trail. And the problem with the spot that I got right now is I guess you could call it a pinch point. I'm in a small area. If I'm sitting in the middle of it, it's about 40 yards to either edge of the woods, and then it goes into an old clear cut area where the trees are 5 to 7 feet tall, and I think they're staying in that until way after dark. And I don't feel like walking 3/4 of a mile back in, trudging through that all that thick stuff, and then having to drag a deer back through it to get out into the main woods. I'm just going to try and find another spot, and I got one just down the road from my house. And like I said, I walked in there yesterday, and I looked at a map, and it looked like state land all the way up to the road. And I went and checked it out, parked, went into the woods, and the longer I sat there, the more I thought, you know what, I wonder if this is private property. It's just too perfect of a hunting area. I mean, there was deer tracks everywhere, thick pines. Farthest shot I was on the ground. The farthest shot I would have been able to make would have been about 20 yards. I could see about 30 right there in that spot. And I'm like, no, this has to be private property. It's just too perfect. So I went back to the car, and that was at 5:30. Went home, looked at the map. No, it's state land even on the other side of the road. So I could have stayed. So I'm probably gonna put a stand in there. I've got a few days left to hunt before I gotta give it up for the month. Hopefully, because I will be going to Florida soon, but. I wouldn't mind, just seeing some deer, even if I can't get a shot at them. Just seeing some for a change. This is the worst year I have ever had deer hunting. I'm seeing deer when I'm coming home. Doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter what time of day. I go out in the morning and stay out there till 10, 11 o'clock. Come home, and just down the road from my house, which is also state land, I'll see deer there crossing onto the private property. Same thing coming home at night, deer in that area again, but it's all pines, and there's not really very many good trees to get up into. And then when you can get up into one, it's totally visible from the road, and I just don't feel like losing a tree stand, because tree stand theft and trail cam theft is really ridiculous here in Benzie County. And the nice thing about my stand is, even if somebody knows I'm hunting an area, if I'm in the beach and stuff like that, that stand is real hard to see even from 10 feet away. It just blends right in. And it's a ladder stand. But you get in the pines, and it might as well have a flashing beacon on it that says, "Come steal me." I'll bet you if I set it up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, went back to my car and got my bow and hunted it that evening, left when it got, at 7 like I did tonight when I was out, by the time I got back in the morning, that stand would be gone. I'd guarantee it. I lived in Lake County for quite a few years and never heard of tree stands being stolen like they steal them up here in Benzie County. These people are just a bunch of crooks up here. They got nothing better to do. Then I heard something unnerving the other day in the store. There's a guy talking to his buddy about bow hunting, and the one guy I got the gist that he was from downstate, and he was tired of coming up here and having locals hunting in his deer hunting area on state land. So what he goes and does is he runs into a gas station in Interlaken that sells bags of bait, and he goes and baits around these people's stand and then calls the DNR on them. I'm like, dang, that is low. You know, a person doesn't even know it's been baited. He's keeping it, the impression I got is he was keeping it out of visibility of the hunter. But the DNR, you know, you don't have to know an area is baited to be in violation. There you go, Mark. That's always nice to have a friend that's got some crop damage and willing to let you hunt. Get in there and fill that freezer up. Yeah, I agree. That's really low, and it's scary. It almost makes you want to walk around your stand before you jump in and hunt it. Yeah, you know, I'm not even sure what a saddle is, to be honest with you. I've watched videos online, and all I ever see is a cable going in front of the guy. They never really show what the stand looks like. I'm assuming it's hung from something a little bit higher, like you're on a winch cable or something, but you know, my ladder stand, the way I set it up is I brace it against the tree with the brace, and I go up as straight up and down as I possibly can, get it attached to the tree, and then I climb down it. I take the brace off, and I lift up the ladder, push it in toward the tree, stick it in the ground, and then I put that brace up in the middle, and it actually bows the ladder a little bit. And chances are, if somebody isn't paying attention, because I don't put all the brace webbing and stuff like that on it. That's how I get my bracing, is that bend in it. But if they don't take that, if they're going to steal that stand, they don't take that bend out. As soon as they release it, they're going over. They're falling 15 feet. Like an adult diaper with a rope to the tree. Huh. Pretty easy to bow shoot out of it then? I'll have to look into that, because something like that would work right down the road here on that state land. I said I can get into the pine tree right on the edge of them. They got some big red pines, and then they got a bunch of these spruce trees that are 10 foot tall or so. And I can get into one of them pine trees and get above the spruce, and then there's a big enough gap in them where the deer are walking through that I could shoot in between the spruce trees. But that ladder stand, it just takes too much time to set up and down with to move it every time I go out hunting. Crossbow and gun. Okay. I'll have to look into that. It's like somebody told me that there's some kind of tumbler system out there to scale perch, and I want to look into that too, because you know, it is what it is. It might be pricey to get into it, but if it ain't getting stolen all the time, then it's kind of worth it. Like I said, these people up here in Benzie County are just absolutely horrible. The whole time I lived in Lake County and I worked at a bait and tackle shop, um, I heard of two people getting their stands stolen. Both of them were real close to the Newaygo county line, and I didn't know those people. They just came into the store. But up here in Benzie County, I'll bet you I know 50 people that have had their stands stolen just in the last 2 years. Yeah, climbing sticks wouldn't be bad. I used to run regular tree stand, and I've still got a couple still in the box. The chain on with the T-locks, the T-bolt, I guess they call it. And they're nice stands. It's just I use them more for private property where I can use the screw-in tree steps, and can't use them on state land. And I refuse to pay $25 for one step that straps onto a tree, especially when I know how well they work, which isn't. Climbing stick might not be a bad way to go though. Those strap onto the tree, but they usually strap pretty solid. I know at the end of bow season you can find them climbing sticks pretty reasonably priced. And then I know guys that are using climbing stands, but man, you got to find the right trees for that. I like being able to get into a tree as big around as a coffee can if I want to. And them climbers just. One of the best stands I ever had was in a 8-inch beech tree. It was on the back corner of my property that I had. And yeah, if the wind blew, you moved around a little bit, but I'll tell you what, I got so many deer out of that stand. It was crazy. And it was one of them beech trees that's got a bunch of little trees coming out of it, so my silhouette got broke up. It's pretty much what I'm in right now. The beech tree that my ladder stands against is probably about 9 inches, and then I got 6 2 to 4 inch trees coming up all around it, and out of the same stump, and they're breaking up my silhouette just about from all angles. Then I've got another branch that comes across my ladder that I got to fit in between when I'm climbing up. I got to be careful that I don't hit it. And then there's 3 fallen down trees about 15 yards out in front of me, and they're breaking up my silhouettes for anything coming in straight that way, because they're kind of locked in each other like this, and I can shoot over them or under them. I showed a guy a picture of it. He's like, "Why don't you move those things?" Well, because then I'll stick out like a sore thumb. Right now they break up the silhouette really nice. You on the road still, Charles, or getting ready to get back home this weekend or next weekend? Have a good night, Mark. Good luck hunting if you make it out. Good luck fishing if you make it out this week. Thanks for stopping by. I do appreciate you. Okay. just let me know. So, Doe Hunter's a wife giving you a hard time about her doing all the killing right now, or is she keeping quiet for now and just going to razz you after the season's over? Yeah, I gotta work tomorrow. I gotta get some stuff done up there. Still gotta put the oil pan on that tractor. I was gonna go there today for a little while, and I had a bad hip joint this morning. Same thing with yesterday, and I took a lot of ibuprofen and Tylenol, and I was able to go out hunting this evening. But yeah, I saw it, Charles. I'll reply to it in a little bit. I know some guys are looking forward to ice fishing season already. I guess a little bit of ice started on Lake Mitchell and a couple of the little bays a couple days ago. They're getting all excited. I got that 14-foot boat to finish, and if I finish it in time, I might go out on the Crystal Lake and try for some perch. Yeah, I saw the video, and I was like, dang, man, I'd have popped that one. It looked like a good shot, but I wasn't. I, I'm looking at the camera angle, and I wasn't sure what kind of a shot she actually had, because I know from the stand that I got when I put the camera up, it looks like it's wide open, but in reality, it's not. I wish I could see through the cover like the camera does. It'd be so much easier. So I figured there was a reason she was passing on it, but if she wanted the bigger one, though, I guess she wanted the bigger one. Was that her that had the fox come in as well? One of my most memorable hunts, 30-ish yards. It's a reasonable shot. Uh, I was gun hunting the neighbors at my parents' place. He was sick, and um, he needed. They relied on the meat, so he wasn't gonna be able to hunt that year. So I figured I'd try to get him one. And he told me to use a stand. He had been baiting it, I normally don't hunt bait, but I figured, okay, I'm going to go out and get him a deer. And he had one of them crop damage permits that he told me to fill. And I went out there and I'm sitting there, and I had jumped deer off the bait pile walking in, and I went in an hour before light, but the moon was really bright. It would have been the first weekend of gun season, but it was a few days after opening day. You get all your stands taken over. I remember those days. So anyways, I went out there and I wasn't sitting there 10 minutes. I poured myself a cup of coffee, lit a cigarette, and I'm sitting in this blind, and this snowshoe hare comes shooting up the trail right past the blind. I'm like, oh, that's cool, And I seen what appeared to be a shadow going over to the bait. I'm like, wow, they're coming in quick, from being spooked out. And then popped up about 8 feet away from the stand. There was a bobcat. And they ended up getting so close to that stand, I could have reached out of the window, or the blind, excuse me, not stand, but the blind. I could have reached out the window and pet them. Ended up 2 of them. That's been the coolest thing that I've got to see out hunting so far. Now, when I used to hunt Lake County, I used to see some pine martens playing in the woods all the time. But them 2 bobcat, that was just cool. They were so close. It was funny because they were making little, for lack of a better term, mewing sounds. But they were hunting that snowshoe. So she lets you catch the fish, and then she shoots all the deer, huh? I've actually seen quite a few bobcat out in the woods. I've seen a wolf, lots of coyotes, elk when I hunted over that way. The only thing I've yet to physically see in the woods from my stand is a bear. I've heard them scurrying out of there when I've been walking in the morning, but I've yet to see one. I even had a little falcon. It's a little guy. He's probably 8-9 inches tall. Land on my shoulder one day bow hunting, which I thought was cool. And then it dawned on me, looking at that beak, that he could peck my eye out if he wanted to. And then I kind of just started leaning, and then he just flew off and he grabbed something down on the ground and took off. But bear's the only thing I haven't seen out there yet bow hunting. Everything else I've seen. The one thing I can't verify that I saw, but I'm 99.9% sure what it was, is a cougar over by Lake City. And shortly after I saw it, they had the sheriff department had posted that they seen one not too far from where I was hunting at the time. So I'm pretty sure it was a cougar that I seen. Now this area down the street from my house, it's thick enough I could possibly see bear in there. Definitely the right terrain for them. It's not high and dry. It's not completely swampy, but it's... Oh, nice. We got quite a few bear here in Benzie County. They become a royal pain in the ass to some of the farmers. And last year, a cub got hit, probably 200 yards from my door, right up on 115. And then I was driving into Traverse to my second job one day last summer, and 4:30 in the afternoon, a bear got hit right on 31, just about 3/4 of a mile from the light there in Interlaken on 31, coming back toward Benzie County. Broad daylight, got smashed. And then I see him periodically driving down the road, crossing the road and whatnot. One of the cub that got hit last year, I'm pretty sure it was one of the pair of twin cubs that I had seen with a sow crossing the road another mile up the road or so up by Crystal Mountain. And I had seen that probably 3 weeks before. But I would like to see one out bow hunting just so that I know I've got my son under control. But I usually see deer, and even when I'm hunting on the ground, they get pretty close to me. So I figure I'm doing okay with the scent. Now, are you anywhere near Clare? I know the Clare area has a lot of bear around it. Always has. And then the other area would be St. Helen area. Always been a lot of bear up there. Then over the past 10, 15 years, their population over in the Cadillac area has really increased. Now we're south, okay. I know the bear are really starting to become a nuisance here in Benzie County. The farmers and like in Frankfort, they had some bear in there this year, tearing up people's bird feeders and yards and stuff right in the city limits. And I know a few years ago, God, it's more than a few, but there was some eating that went down, drank water down on the beach there in Beulah. Police escorted him up narrow gauge road and out of town, but that was a sow and a cub. And I do know that the people about 3/4 of a mile to a mile up the road from where I'm hunting right now, that'd be one of the nearest neighbors. They've had bear problems in the past. I know they're out there. It's just I just haven't been lucky enough to see one yet. It won't be long, and there'll be a real pain in a real PETA. Let's put it that way. People start losing little dogs that they keep on chains out there unattended. When I say little dogs, I'm talking, little broom dogs, yippy things. They usually won't mess with something like a beagle that howls loud, but They're kind of terrified of beagles, but and they should be. You know, if beagles were a lot bigger, they'd be devastating. They're pretty nasty dog. Lovable little shits, but they're just tough. I guess you got to be tough because you're bred to go down a badger hole and grab a badger by the face and drag it out. So. Okay, well, our viewer rate's dropping again, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the like if you haven't hit the like yet. It does help my channel out. I'm not monetized right now. In order to do that, you got to have like 600 subscribers. I'm nowhere near that, so. Um, if you're hunting this week, good luck. And if you're fishing this week, even better luck, but stay safe. Don't go out on the piers if it's rough. I don't want to read about anybody getting washed into the water and drowning, and it happens every year. That area around the pier, when them waves are bashing it, it's nothing to fool with. It's not like playing in the waves off of a beach at all. There's undercurrents that are going to keep you under, and rocks down there you're going to get swept around and everything. It's just bad news. But if you can get out on the piers and it's safe, you know, it's a good time to try for whitefish. So, all right, everybody, have a great week. If anything pops up or updates to the fishing report or anything like that, I will jump on live and post it until I can get a video made up. And we'll see you here next week. So, everybody, good luck. And thank you for watching Call the Wild Outdoors.